Right. Dorash Rav Anani Bar Sason Apiskla de Benesiya. It's on Chaf Dal Ramad Bet. It's the third long line on the page, and it is about halfway down, 50% of the way down. And the first word on line is Yishmael. So we had talked about the day of Shavuos, whether it was going to be considered like the Yontif, and therefore break the Avelis, or whether it would be considered like a Shabbos because it's only one day, and therefore would simply suspend the Avelis. And we had quoted different opinions. So the Gemara says, the Mishnah had said, the Rabbi Lezer said when the Beis Mikdash was destroyed, Atzeres became like Shabbos because they were no longer bringing karbanos for 7 days. And then the Chachamim said Atzeres is like Regalim, like Yontif, and however Rosh Hashanah is like Shabbos, Rosh Hashanah and Kippur is like Shabbos. And we paskin that we're going to see that we follow the opinion that Shavuos is like Yontif, Rosh Hashanah is like Yontif, and Yom Kippur is like Yontif. So the question is though, when you reach Shavuos, how do you do the count? Does Shavuos count as one day, or does Shavuos count as multiple days in terms of the actual counting for the shloshim that would follow it? In other words, because what we're assuming that even though Shavuos is 1 day or 2 days in diaspora, it's equivalent to a 7-day holiday. So Chazal have this fiction, this halachic fiction, not fiction, halachic understanding, that therefore it's considered an equal to 7 days. And so therefore, if you sit Shiva for 1 day or a partial day before Shavuos, and you get to Shavuot, well, let's say you said a partial day before any Yontif, and you get to the Yontif, so you've actually completed 7 days, right?
Right. So you're on the 8th day.
Correct.
After Yontif, on the 8th or 9th.
Correct. Normally, when this happens with Sukkot or Pesach, so you have 7 days of Pesach, that there's no Avelis really on Shloshim, and you have 7 plus 7. So the Gemara says the same thing is going to be effective for Shavuos. 7 days, the equivalent of 7 days until Shavuos, because whatever Shiva you have is broken by Shavuos. And then Shavuos, even though it's a 1-day Yontif, is equal to another 7 days. So when you come the day after Shavuos, you're ready for finished 14 days of the Shloshim.
I don't understand the regular Yontif, let's say Sukkot.
Correct. So Sukkot,
for the first day, the Shloshim still continues.
Correct.
I think, the Shloshim continues, right? So it doesn't matter if like the 7 days counts towards 7 days of the Shloshim.
Correct. So what we're saying that, seeing that we're assuming that Shavuos is like a 7-day Yontif, we're going to count it fictitiously, or halachically fictitiously, as if 7 days have transpired.
Really?
The 1 day will be like as if, and you've gone to another 7 days.
So it's really like 23 days?
So in this case, it's like 14 days. When you get to Sukkot, we'll see in a moment, the Gemara is going to say that Sukkot is even a greater bonus, because you have Sukkot, and then you have Shmini Atzeres, which is a separate Yontif, also a 1-day Yontif. So if a person sits Shiva 1 day before Sukkot, you have the 1 day now equals 7 days of Sukkot. And now Shmini Atzeres, the same rule, is going to be equal a 7-day holiday. So now you finish 21 days.
Do we paskin like this?
Yes, we do. Yes.
For Sukkot we do, and for Shavuos we do also for 7 days.
Yes.
Oh, I'm asking.
Yes, we do. Yes, we do.
I'm asking
Yeah.
I
I thought the day just continued. I didn't think that
So that's what we would think, and the Chazal have this because they're assuming it's like a Yontif, a 1-day Yontif is like a 7-day Yontif. We're assuming it's even considered like 7 days.
What's the purpose of the Shloshim?
It's not what the purpose of the Shloshim is. It's question is how you calculate Shloshim.
Different levels.
In other words,
it's a mourning period.
Correct. So, but I'm saying, but once again, there are times when the calculations don't always dovetail with the full, complete time that person needs to recuperate from sadness. So, for example, a person who has shloshim, let's say, for example, a person sits as a funeral 10 days before Sukkot, correct? So they sit 7 days for Shiva, then they have another 3 days, and they hit Sukkot, And that's the end of Shloshim. The Yontif ends and terminates whatever period of mourning you're in, Shiva or Shloshim.
So it terminates, it doesn't continue. The 30 days don't continue. It stops.
Correct. Right.
Stops the Shloshim.
Correct.
So what's the difference? You have a Shavuos coming in after, say, a week. It killed the Shloshim.
Stops it.
So Shavuos, which killed the Shloshim. What happens if you didn't start the Shloshim? You're in the middle of Shiva. Whatever period of you're either Shiva, it stops Shiva. If you're in Shloshim, it stops Shloshim.
Yeah.
Whatever period of time you are, the holiday terminates that and moves you to the next level.
But not the year.
But not the year, correct. But not the year. The year is not possible.
It just terminates it. It's not equivalent to 7 days. There's a difference.
So therefore, on a holiday which is normally 7 days, such as Pesach and Sukkot, it's 7 days. On a holiday that's 1 day, we consider it to be 7 days.
So mixed up. So does it terminate or is it equivalent?
I'm missing something.
Yes.
So
therefore,
when you carry on, you just got 14 days left.
You got 16 days left or 15 days
That's
left.
how it's
Correct.
done. That's what we do today, or it terminates?
Yes. No, it terminates. If you're sitting Shiva before the holiday,
It terminates Shiva.
you move to the next level. Which is Shloshim.
Right, but let's say
when in calculating the Shloshim,
it takes up 7.
So Shmini Atzeres and Shavuos would take off 7 days, or equal to 7 days. It's a eliding of the days.
So it doesn't cancel the 30 days?
It only cancels that if that's a period of mourning you're in.
You only can?
What do you mean by that?
In other words, there are 3 levels of mourning: Shiva, Shloshim, and the year.
Okay.
Correct, for a parent. So the year is never canceled by anything, because otherwise you'd never have a year. It doesn't make sense. You obviously realize that. But Shiva, if you're in a period of Shiva and you hit a holiday, the Shiva ends and you move to the next level, which is Shloshim.
Okay.
If you're in Shloshim and you hit a holiday,
7 days.
no, if you're in Shloshim, it terminates the Shloshim.
I thought we said 7 days. Am I mixed up?
Yes, so can I try it again?
Okay, sorry. No, because you said it adds 7 days to Shloshim.
So let me explain, okay?
So what am I mixed up?
The holiday moves you to the next level.
Okay.
We on that?
Okay.
So
Therefore,
in Shiva,
if you're in Shiva and you reach the holiday, Shiva is terminated, and you move to Shloshim.
Correct.
Forget how many days of Shloshim. You move to Shloshim.
Okay.
If you're in the period of Shloshim, because you finished Shiva 30 days before, whatever it is, or 10 days before, let's assume, you come to the holiday, Shloshim is finished. Even if you only had 1 day of Shloshim, 2 days of Shloshim.
So it's not 7 days doesn't apply, really.
Now, if when you finish Shiva, the holiday bumps you over to the next level, if it's a 1 day Yontif, it's equal to 7 days of Shloshim that are already counted.
So you're saying if you... Okay, so let me repeat. So if you're in Shiva and you hit a holiday, so it cuts Shiva and it adds 7 days to Shloshim.
No.
It
Takes away 7 days.
Correct.
Takes away 7 days. Okay, I got you.
Right?
Now, the case, I don't think I've got this wrong. A friend of ours, his father passed away, and it was just before Pesach.
Right.
And that only started Shiva.
Maybe they didn't do the funeral until Pesach.
Funeral happened. Oh, I see.
The period of the funeral may have happened on Moed.
Right.
Is that correct?
I remember it was a strange situation because he couldn't sit Shiva until after Pesach.
Correct. So in other words, Shiva, the Shiva will only be terminated if you start it. If you did not start sitting Shiva, okay, such as where a funeral takes place on Yontif, or on Moed, I should say.
Yeah.
Right? So then you have the unusual situation where the period people are in this funny kind of situation on Moed. The funeral is not a real Shiva, and the Shiva begins afterwards. In such a case, the Shiva starts afterwards. However, because the last day of Yontiv is a Yom Tov Sheni of Golios, they've already finished 1 of the days of Shiva. Even though it's a Yontif for us, it's not a real Torah Yontif. So 1 day is already, they skipped over it when they finished the 2nd day of Yontif.
Pesach was Saturday, Sunday, and I think he was buried on the Sunday. So he was buried on the 2nd. Would he be buried the 2nd day of Yontif?
It's rare. Was he in Israel?
No. Yeah, he's in at Shalom. Maybe not. I could be wrong. I just remember there was. It was just so hard because they couldn't do anything.
It's very rare today to see a funeral take place on the second day of Yom Tov.
I don't think it would have happened.
Okay. So
I think Rabbi Taub was still here.
Okay.
I'll speak to him. I remember he was saying how hard it is. You can't sit shiva.
It's very hard.
You had the funeral.
It's extremely hard. To know, let's we talk about the logical laws of the Torah. The laws are extremely logical, but somewhere there's going to be a bit of a nuance, a little bump that you say this doesn't make sense, right? Shabbos is a wonderful law. Rest, relaxation, not creating something. Okay, it makes a whole lot of sense. It's so logical. Equality of human beings, the worker and the boss. You don't need communism to do this. One day a week, we're all equal. And yet there's always going to be the minutiae about Shabbos saying, well, this doesn't make sense. I'm not supposed to do this, and how can I not do this, or vice versa. So it's when you subject to all the laws, you find that there are pieces. So this is one of these pieces of Avelus. We say the Torah looks like it is so logical about the period of healing. How can that person go through Yantif, right? Or conversely, another case where a person, the funeral is right before Pesach, right? You hear this not all the time, but you hear cases, people, the funeral's right before Yantif, and they have a shiva of one day or a half a day, and then they get up. And it's very difficult because, first of all, people don't have time to pay a shiva call. Second of all, they don't have time really to recoup, right? So, I mean, this is why I told you, like, sometimes there are situations where they sit in the cemetery. Sometimes it happens like on Erev Shabbos. They want to get the Friday in because they don't sit shiva before Shabbos, and they're not sitting on Shabbos. They won't start counting the Sundays. Other times it happens on Erev Yontif. Funeral takes place on Erev Yontif. The family is traveling to another city, or they're afraid they may not get a chance to sit when they get home, so they sit for a moment at the cemetery, pull out benches and sit on the benches. And the family never really goes through a proper healing process. So, yeah.
So the person dies, let's say 3 days before Sukkot.
Yes, 3 day shlosh, 3 day shiva.
Okay. Now the Shemini Atzeres comes in. It doesn't stop.
So what happens? The person dies 3 days before Sukkot. Yeah. He sits shiva for 3 days until Sukkot. Yeah. Sukkot comes, terminates the shiva, and moves into the next level, which is shloshim. Now, for the 7 days of Yantif and Chol Moed, there's really no shloshim that's going to come across. Okay. Now, the other part is on Shemini Atzeres, which is a single day Yantif. It's the 8th day for us, but it's a single day Yantif. It's a separate holiday, so that's equal to 7 days.
It's on day 15.
So therefore, effectively speaking, let's say he sat 3 days before Sukkot, that's equal to 7, right? Because he's just jumped through 7. You've got 7 days of Sukkot, and now Shemini Atzeres makes 7 days, makes 21 days. When he finishes Sukkot, he has 8 days. No, he's got 30 days. He has 9 days. He has 9 days left to shloshim. So it's a very short shloshim, and you don't really get to feel it because a good chunk of it is Yantif.
But the Shemini Atzeres didn't stop the shloshim?
No, it doesn't. No, it doesn't. It doesn't. No, he's asking if it started because the shloshim never took effect.
Well, it took effect.
Yantif, that's why.
It didn't take effect.
Correct.
So what was, let's say, Rosh Hashanah?
So Rosh Hashanah is an interesting situation. Here you have a case. We have 2 holidays very closely back to back together, right? Or for that matter, Yom Kippur and Sukkot. Yep. Now the difference is that there's a space between them. So let's talk about the case of Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur. A person has a shiva before Rosh Hashanah. They sat shiva for 1 day nebuch. Rosh Hashanah comes and stops it. Correct? Rosh Hashanah.
So Shloshim start after Rosh Hashanah.
So Shloshim start after Rosh Hashanah.
7 days there or not?
Well, it's not going to really make a difference.
Yom Kippur stops it.
Oh, because
Yom Kippur is going to stop it.
So why does Yom Kippur stop it?
Because you carried out. You have to carry out the level of mourning. You have to actively do something.
You started the shloshim.
You started the shloshim.
Then it stops it.
Right. In other words, if you have, let's say, if you go one yontif into the other, like Sukkot and Shemini Atzeres, it doesn't work that way. Okay. So the same thing with Yom Kippur and with Sukkot. Actually, it's machlokas in the discussion. The Gemara, if that really is true, we pass it does. So you can have two holidays, but between each holiday there's an opportunity to do this morning. Okay, so the most unusual one is really the Sukkot one, which you get 21 days, and it may only have sat Shiva for a day or part of a day before Sukkot. Right, in the most radical case, a person is buried on Erev Sukkot. Person gets home. There's a few hours of Shiva,
and it breaks it.
And then you finish Shiva, which is now suddenly automatically became equal to 7. 7 days of Sukkot. Shmini Atzeres equals another 7. Wait, and then we have Simchas Torah in the diaspora, which counts as a day of Shloshim as well.
How many days is there left?
So the reality is you now have 8 days. I said 9 days. It's really 8 days left, because it's 7. It's equal to half a day before Sukkot is equal to 7. 7 days of Sukkot equals 7. Shmini Atzeres equals 7. And then Simchas Torah, which is the Yom Tov Sheni of Shmini Atzeres, equals 1. 7 plus 7 plus 7 plus 1 equals 22. You have 8 days left for Shloshim. That's the radical case. And the Gemara will actually say that. So the key behind this, of course, is that communal happiness overrides personal sadness. When you get away from all the specifics and the why it becomes 7 days, it's really about the holiday overriding the sense of personal sadness. And that's a concept in Judaism, that communal happiness overrides personal sadness in various different ways. Okay, you know what? You can come up with all kinds of scenarios. People who Levi is on Erev Pesach, then they got to go sit down to a seder, right? In fact, ask anyone. The first yontif, right? The first of the cycle of Yom Tovim after a person's passed away. It could be a parent, a very close relative, especially Sidorim, which is family. It's very difficult. It's very difficult.
Some people have the meaning not to say Yisku the first year.
Correct. That has to deal with where the neshama is.
Oh, is that why?
So what does that
They
mean?
don't say Yisku the first year.
Some people do, some people
Right.
don't.
Right.
The Lubavitch doesn't.
Right. Some do, some don't. Okay. Okay. So at any rate, let's come back and see this Gemara inside. Now you pretty much we can roll through the Gemara because you know all the scenarios. Darsh Rav Ananei Bar Shasona Pischa de Beinasia Yom Echad Lefnei Atzeres VeAtzeres Harei Kana Ba'asar. So the day before Shavuos and Shavuos equals how many days? Equals 14 days, right? If you sit Shiva one day before Shavuos, it's equal to 7. And now you have this, with the day of Shavuos equals 7 days of Shloshim.
Okay.
So you have 16 days left to finish up the Shloshim. So Shama Rab Ami ve'ikbit. So Rab Ami heard this and he got very angry. And Omar, he said, Atu didehu? Is this really what he said? The Rabbi Lazar Amar Rav Shayahu. It's really Rabbi Lazar Amar Rav Shaya. Now, it looks like the reason he got angry was Rav Anani Bar Sason looked like he was saying this in his own name rather than the name of someone else. Some of the Rishonim say the fact that he said in his own name he meant to give validity to it halachically, and in effect we don't paskin like that. We do paskin like that, practically speaking. But these Rishonim say maybe we don't paskin like that. And he was coming along to say he says it as if to say this is what we do, when in effect he should have said Rav Elazar said it, and that's just an opinion of Rav Elazar. Okay. So similar story now we have Darash Rabbi Yitzchak Nafcha Killa the Reish Glusa. Rabbi Yitzchak Nafcha was darshaning the Killa is like a I think it's like a porch or veranda or something of the house of the Reish Galusa. Yom Echad Lefnei Atzeres VaAtzeres Harei Kana Ba'asar. Same statement. The day of Shiva before Shmini, before not Shmini, it says before Sukkot Shavuos, and the day of Shavuos equal to 14 days. Sham Rav Sheshes Ikbed. Rav Sheshes heard it and was angry. Same story. Omar Atu Didehu to Rav Elazar Amar Rav Oshayahu. It's not his. It was Rav Elazar Rav Oshaya. Dam Rav Elazar Rav Oshaya. Here's a statement that it looks like he took it from. Minayin la'atzeres sheish tashlumim kol shiva. How do you know that Shavuos has a makeup period for all of 7 days? This talks about the karbanos. That if they couldn't bring karbanos for the day of Shavuos, they could make up bringing karbanos for the week that follows. I told you we don't say tachnun the week that follows Shavuos for that reason. Shnemar.
What's that?
We don't say tachnun.
Because
It's our concession to the fact that this was such a semi-festive day, they were still bringing korbanos. Practically speaking, it was not possible to bring all the korbanos of the Olas Riyah and the Korban Chagiga on one day for all the pilgrims.
so 7 days.
So they brought over 7 days. Okay? But it makes sense. If you're bringing 2 korbanos, you don't want to bring them both on the same day anyway.
Yeah.
Spread out the meat.
So what's the reason that the Torah says to bring the korbanos for 2 days?
So how do you know? Shenamar it says in the Varm it says B'chag Hamatzos v'chag Shavuos v'chag Sukkos. So it compares Chag Hamatzos, Chag Shavuos, Chag Sukkos. Chag Hamatzos yesh tashlumim kol shiva, av Chag Shavuos yesh lo tashlumim kol shiva. Because in Parshas Re'eh it refers to the pilgrimage festivals and compares them all together. It says that so the same way the Chag Hamatzos, Pesach, had a 7-day makeup period, which was the actual Yontif, to bring the Korban Chagiga and the Korban and the Olas Riyah. So too, Shavuos, which is compared to it, the Chag Hamatzos, the Chag Shavuos, the same law applies. It's a very it's a difficult drash, because how do you know to compare it for that reason? Obviously they had a Masorah as well, that this is what the drash was, and this is why the Pasuk compared the two together. Okay.
So they're coming. Everybody's coming down for the Shlosh Regalim. For Shavuos is one of them. So they got to bring all these korbanos. They can't get them all in on the same day.
They stay for a few.
So what's the point? I mean,
what the point is, you stay for the week after. The point was you came to the base of Mikdash.
Yeah, no. I'm just saying.
What's the so the question is, what's the point of the Shalosh Regalim?
No, well,
that's a general question. What is the point of going to the base of Mikdash for Shalosh Regalim? People had to schlep across. People had to schlep across Israel to go to Jerusalem. You know what? For us, it's a small country. You get in the car.
No, but not your donkey.
But if you have a donkey cart, it takes days.
They walk, yeah.
Right? It's when you're walking by foot or by coach or however you came. But you got to schlep and leave everything up in the air.
But the 7 days coincide with the time it takes to bring the korbanos, right?
No, every holiday is 7 days. Yeah. Shavuos, it was just practically possible not to do it every one in one day. So they said the same way the other holidays had 7 days, the week that followed, so too Shavuos. So maybe they could have done it in 5 days.
Why wasn't
Shavuos 7 days?
Yeah, that's the big question. I mean, if this is the reason why.
So that's a good question. So Rav Menachem Litek has a shir about this. He says the reason that Hashem wanted people to come to the base of Mikdash for the Shalosh Regalim was He wanted to ensure that the Jews, the Israelites, would not be misled by the different pantheon of gods in Canaan. In Canaan, there were gods for everything. There was a god of fertility, there was a god of rain, there was a god of, I don't know, this and that.
But before Matan Torah.
No, the Canaanites, the indigenous people.
But they beat them up.
They didn't kill them.
They knocked them out.
No, some pockets
They were
left.
there. There were always pockets there. There were always pockets there of Canaanim and Philistines and other people who are worshipping alien gods. And that's why the Jews are worshipping alien gods.
They're a minority. So, they're a minority?
They're not such a minority. They're a minority in the big towns, and in the countryside they're still there. So as a way to ensure that the Jewish people would not be misled by these different gods, God said that, you know what, for every one of your agricultural festivals, when you're thinking about fertility and you want to recognize it, you got to come to my temple. You got to come to my base of Mikdash and bring korbanos to me, that you will recognize that there's one God that controls everything: water, sun, rain, fertility, animals, husbandry. It's all one God. So therefore, for each point in the agricultural process, it's a regel that you have to come to the base of Mikdash, and in fact, you have to bring a korban in the base of Mikdash of something, or use something in the base of Mikdash that shows it's an agricultural festival that comes to me. On Pesach, you have the korban of the Omer, the first barley. On Shavuos, you brought the Shnei Lechem, 2 loaves of wheat flour. Right? In Sukkos, they not only brought they brought the crops in, but they also brought the lulav and the esrog in the base of Mikdash. And the 4 species are indigenous of how things grow in Israel, different climates, different environments. So that's why that you have the pilgrimage festivals. And says Rabbi Menachem, let me just say another question. He says the best way to underscore that it's really our God, and to ensure that they understood it's our God, is to wrap it around the number 7. Because the concept of Bereshis is God made the entire world from day 1 through day 6, and on the 7th day God rested from everything that He made, because He made everything. And therefore on Pesach there are 7 days, on Sukkot there are 7 days, then there's also Shmini Atzeres, and on Shavuos, you're right, there isn't 7 days, but you had 7 weeks. So the number 7 weeks of 7 days, and that's the count, is wrapped into the actual count for Shavuos. So you could have said 7 days of Shavuos, but it's 1 day, but the 7 weeks times 7 days came all the way to Shavuos. So therefore, that's why 7 is important, and maybe that's why Shavuos, even though it's a 1-day festival, is equated to Pesach as a makeup for 7 days.
So okay, just to say, so he said, so if when they conquered Eretz Yisrael, they would have gotten rid of all the Canaanim and then we wouldn't.
Everything would have been great.
No, everything would have been great. Then you're saying we wouldn't have had korbanos. We wouldn't go to your logic is because of all these other peoples, we did our own thing to show that.
So I think.
Because it the instruction for korbanot predates.
So I think Hashem understood that it was not physically possible to eradicate every Canaanite. What happened, unfortunately, is not only did not eradicate every Canaanite, we left vestiges in large vestiges around the country.
I was doing Yeshua. It tells you.
If you're doing Sefer Yeshua,
tells you wherever.
So if you do Sefer Yeshua, the second half tells you where they left.
Yeah.
Right. The first half looks like they're victorious and they clean it up.
But in the end,
the second half, you see that it's still there. When you get to Sefer Shoftim, you realize how much trouble they're really in.
Yeah.
That the plan wasn't followed through all the way. So, but even if the plan had been followed all the way, there still would have been Canaanites. The plan was not followed all the way. The plan was so not followed that there's idol worship in the Beis Hamikdash again and again and again.
Yeah. We don't blame Yeshua for this.
We don't blame Yeshua.
He was the guy that was after Moshe. He was the guy.
They did the best they could.
It was his job.
They did the best they could. Not every plan goes according to oil.
Because not every Jew is a murderer to go kill people.
Right. I'm saying after Yeshua there was a problem, wasn't there?
After Yeshua, they suddenly realized they didn't wipe out the indigenous people. They're still there.
I'm saying, wasn't it that it wasn't?
It's like when the Caucasians came to the Wild West. And they set up all these different, Sioux City and Dodge City and this place and that place and Laramie. You watched all the old westerns, but in between city to city, the Indians were out there still scalping people. How did that happen? The answer was they hadn't cleaned it up yet. Eventually, over time, they cleaned it up and they shuffled the indigenous people off the reservations, unfortunately, and they kept them there.
I don't think that scalping. I think is a Hollywood thing. I don't know if it's even true. I'm not sure. I don't know. I don't know either. It's like a Hollywood.
But what I'm saying is wasn't it that they weren't interested in doing the job at some point?
No.
After Yeshua, wasn't there?
I don't know if they.
Was it a job that was impossible to do? Was it the wrong job? God gave them more than they could handle.
So I don't think God gives anyone more than they can handle. We're all not perfect. Well, we're all not perfect. That's all. So they did the best they could. Anyways. So coming back here, so therefore Shavuos is a 7-day makeup period. As a result, if it's got a 7-day makeup period, Chazal, and who says this? Rav Elazar Rav Oshaya. So it's a 7-day makeup period. That is the source why Rav Anani Bar Sasson and Rav Yitzchak Nafcha say that therefore counting or going through Shavuos is as if you got 7 days for Shiva. Besides the fact that there were 7 following days of bringing karbanos, the 1 day itself is equivalent to 7 days on the count of the shloshim. That's Shiva shloshim. So that becomes the marker for it. It's not really. You could have one without the other, but that's how one is based upon the other. Now, Adbrei Rav Papa Rav Avaya Saba. So Rav Papa was helping lead along Rav Avaya Saba, the old Rav Avaya. Right? Saba, of course, means old. Right, we use that today to refer to grandfather. Yeah. But if you realize Saba means an old guy, oldster. Okay. So Rav Avaya the elder, V'darash, and while he helped them along, he darshan. Yom echad lefnei Rosh Hashanah rei kana ba'asar. So he said the same thing applies to Rosh Hashanah. Rosh Hashanah and 1 day before Rosh Hashanah and Rosh Hashanah equals 14 days.
Now, 1 day before?
Partial day. You have, because it means you have to sit something of Shiva. You have to actually some part of a day before Rosh Hashanah you have to do.
That counts as 7?
So that's the same thing. A partial day before Pesach is 7, partial day before Rosh Hashanah is 7. But he says something else. Rosh Hashanah is the same law, that 7 days plus 14 days, 7 days plus 7 days makes it 14 days. And therefore you'd only have 16 days left to finish off before Shloshim. Now, the Rishonim asked the question that doesn't this mean, I mean, what there's really no reality here to this, because in 10 days it's going to be Yom Kippur, right?
Yeah.
And they give two answers. They said, you're right, there is Yom Kippur, but it's still, in other words, we're still counting it as it is. Actually, that's one answer. The second answer says no, that if you the second answer says that this Gemara was following an opinion that says if you got cheated days, I'm not saying if your shiva was cut short once, you can't cut the shloshim short.
Really?
In other words, we don't paskin like that.
No.
We paskin that you can have the double whammy. You cut the shiva short, and then 10 days later you cut the shloshim short. But the Rishonim say that this opinion was following an opinion that said no, you can't take too many kulas here. You can't slice it both ways. If you cut short your shiva, then you got to really have. If you count 1 day is equal to 7, however, or the yontif itself includes, but still after that, once you start counting shiva, you can't terminate the shiva. You can have it accelerated through yontif, but you can't terminate it early. And therefore, what this opinion was saying on Rosh Hashanah, we'd have 14 days by the time you finish Rosh Hashanah. You still have to count 16 more days, and you couldn't get it shortcutted through Yom Kippur. Once again, we don't paskin like that, but that's why they suggest why they need to be a chiddush to say Rosh Hashanah is it plus a partial day before and Rosh Hashanah equals to 14 days. Okay. Now here comes the 21 day. Ravina Hilkach. Therefore, Yom Echad Lefnei Achag v'Chag Ushmini Shelo Harei Esim v'Echad Yom. If you have 1 day or partial day before Sukkot, and Chag is Sukkot and Shmini Atzeres, you have 21 days. Harei Kan Esim v'Echad Yom. Okay, and that's in fact how we paskin. Okay, the end of this piece of Gemara. Ravina Ikla L'Sura de Paras. Ravina came to the Surah in Paras on the Euphrates. Amalei Rav Chaviva Misura de Paras to Ravina. So this guy Rav Chaviva Misura of Paras said to Ravina, Amar Mar Yom Echad Lefnei Rosh Hashanah Reikan Abasar. Okay, so 1 day before Rosh Hashanah is equal to 14 days. Amalei Ana Mistabra Karaban Gamliel Hu Damina. I follow like Rabbi Gamliel, which means that Rabbi Gamliel holds that Rosh Hashanah is equal to like a Shabbos.
7 days?
No. Rosh Hashanah is like a regel.
So he differs.
Rosh Hashanah is like a regel. Or maybe you, right. Right. So he's basically saying, he says, this is like Ravina says that this is that we're assuming that Rosh Hashanah equals to a regel. And therefore, I'm sorry?
As opposed to Shabbos.
As opposed to a Shabbos, which would simply be a suspension. Okay. Good. So this is the counting of the days when it hits up against the Yontif. Okay. Let's go to the Mishnah's bottom of the page. Okay. So next Mishnah, Ein Korin. Ein korin v'lo cholzin v'lo mavrin el akrov of shomes. Okay, so this Mishnah, according to most Rishonim, is assumed to be talking about Chol Moed. That a Chol Moed, when you do the Levaya, if the Levaya and Chol Moed, they don't rip the garments of Kriya, except the krovim around a mace. But other people don't do Kriya. Now you're going to say most people don't normally do Kriya anyway. The Gemara is going to talk about who one should do Kriya for, or when one should do Kriya, even if you're not a blood relative of the deceased. But the Gemara, this is really about Chol Moed. Some of the Rishonim say it applies to any type of funeral. That you don't do Kriya normally, it's considered Bal Tashchis, and except the krovim of the mace and the other things as well. Okay, v'lo cholzim. Cholzim was they would bear the shoulder. We learned that, right? So who bears the shoulder? Only the relatives. The ein mavrin is the suda havra, and when the first meal, when the avelim come back, and the friends give them their first meal.
So you don't bring the meal?
No, means the only people who can partake of the meal are the krovim of the deceased. If you're not a karov,
you're not invited.
You're not invited and you don't partake. Okay. Okay, that's actually sometimes it's halacha people don't know, or minhag people don't know.
What this is when you come back from the graveyard? Is it
Yeah. Yes.
Only
right.
Only the
relatives. So the whole discussion.
There's a minhag here.
So
My mother told me, like, the minhag is because people would go to the cemetery was far away. They'd come to the house and they would eat something.
Yeah.
And I know in New York they don't have that minhag, but in Toronto for some reason they do.
But
I don't know if it's right or wrong.
Suda Savra or Suda Savra?
They have a little. They have a when the people.
People bring food to an unveiling. That minhag that you're referring to, I think, is people used to bring refreshments to the cemetery for an unveiling.
No, that may be true. I don't know about that, but I remember after the funeral, people, the family would go back, and some close relatives would go back, and they would serve them lunch or something, or some food or something.
So there's nothing wrong with serving them lunch, but there's a special mitzvah to give a suda savra.
No, not this.
To the avelim, right? You've heard that you don't take food out of a shiva house, right? It's all about trying to make sure the avelim are prepared for. Okay.
You know, what do you call it as a thing? I think it was, I'm not sure, I think it was you put the stone up, what do you call it? The
unveiling.
At the unveiling, I think they invited him to, was it a shul actually? We went back to the shul.
Yeah.
So that minhag comes from the fact that people came from great distances. I've seen, I haven't seen them for a while, I've seen where people used to bring to the cemetery, they would actually bring refreshments. You know, you do it for an unveiling. Unveiling is nice weather. It's like going out to a picnic. It's not right. It's really not right.
It's not right.
It's not respectful.
It's not respectful.
I'm sorry?
I've never seen that.
I've seen it. It's not not in Canada, in the United States, where people are less respectful altogether, right?
No.
But the minhag goes back to the fact that people used to schlep in from all over. You know, they didn't get back in a car, they got back on a horse, a buggy, whatever it was, and they were going to the next town, so they needed to eat before they left. That makes sense. You want to make sure that you don't starve along the way until you get to the next, whatever it is, village, hotel, inn, tavern, I don't know. So they ate, but really it's not proper to eat at a cemetery. It's not proper to eat at a cemetery. It's loig lo'osh. They can't eat. You eat.
Not proper to eat.
One of the differences that's different between us and dead people is we eat.
They can't do mitzvahs.
They can't do mitzvos. One mitzvah, of course, you would no doubt be doing if you ate would be making a bracha. But anything that you do that underscores the fact that you're different is wrong. So eating is wrong. In fact, we had this where for the onain has the body there, and he puts up a barrier. If he wants to go eat, he should go to another house. It's not only about making brachas, just simply it's not proper to sit and eat. It's not. You want something? It's not respectful to eat. They go into a courtroom and try to eat, and you'll see how quickly they'll throw you out.
It's not respectful.
Right?
There's a place and time for everything.
Right.
Time and place for everything.
Correct. I don't know. Our shul, kids walk around eating candies. That's what we're teaching them. But I'm saying that's because they're kids. But really, it's not proper to eat. It's not proper to eat in a shul. It's not proper to eat in a place where you're supposed to offer respect, which is, of course, the deceased.
A base medrash is okay.
Base medrash is okay. Base medrash is because you like living and learning, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right. People actually used to sleep in a base medrash.
Yeah.
So the question really is do our shuls today, and do they ask for have the law of a base medrash or a base knesses?
Doesn't it depend on how you designate it?
Yeah, it does. But really, it's not that clear that our shuls have the same quality of kedusha as the base knesses of Eretz Yisrael and Bavel. Depends the conditions they're built. They're clearly built. For example, our shul. I'm being very careful the rabbis in study, but our shul is built that you can have weddings here, they have speakers here, they have events here, right? That's you could not do in a shul that was built with a high level of kedusha based on this. You'd have a base medrash.
I see what you're saying.
So the conditions that are inherent in creating this was creating it as a shul and also as a gathering place. Now we want to be careful That's all. Only certain people can speak, and only certain times, only certain. That's what I'm saying, but still.
Can't have it both ways.
Right. So at any rate, so once again, I said the big deal about this Mishnah is this Mishnah only talking about Chol Moed, and therefore, which means during the rest of the days of the year when it's not Chol Moed, anyone can do Kriya, anyone can bear their shoulder, anyone can sit down to Sudas Havrah, or is it really meant, well, you don't do it on Chol Moed, but you don't do it all the rest of the year as well? So that's a discussion in terms of how far this Mishnah extends into either Chol Moed or the rest of the year. So it says El Krov of Shalmeis, and of course when it says Krov of Shalmeis, it means the people who are the close relatives to mourn. There are relatives who don't have to mourn. So when this says that the people who do Kriya are only the Krov of Shalmeis, it doesn't mean any relative. Right? It means any relative who's close enough, child, sibling, parent, who would normally do Kriya should do Kriya. Anyone else, including further relatives, do not do Kriya. Excuse me. V'ein mavrim el amita zekufa, and we do the Sudas Havrah. I'm sorry. We eat the Sudas Havrah on a mita zekufa, on a regular bed. Now once again, there's a lot of interpretation what this means. What mita zekufa is the opposite of kofanas amita. We said that people use this bench, which also doubled as a bed, and on the week of Shiva, the bed was turned upside down. We don't do this. Our beds don't work that way. We surely don't use our beds to eat on, right? You haven't done it since you were a kid, at least. And our beds are surely not reversible the way they were. But when they had reversible beds, it also doubled for sitting. So the Avel sat on a mita kfuya, an upside down inverted bed. Now, when the Sudas Havrah is given here on Chol Moed, so first of all, if you're not an Avel, you don't eat, and even the Avelim, right? Even the Avelim ate on the mita that was right side up on Chol Moed. Okay, so once again, this is the connection between Chol Moed and between Avelis, and that's really how it goes out. Okay.
So what's he saying? You eat on a regular bed, or you eat on the bed that you don't turn over.
You don't turn it over, correct? You don't turn it over on Chol Moed, correct?
On Chol Moed.
On Chol Moed, that's what I understand it. Okay. So I said there are two interpretations. Either it's Chol Moed. The other interpretation is yes, you don't do it on Chol Moed. You wouldn't do it the rest of the year as well, because the Sudas Havrah is the Avelim are eating, and other people are there as well. The other people are not eating the food, but they're there. So how does it look that they're sitting down? They're going to sit on Mita Kfuya, which is very equivalent to our sitting on a low stool, and everybody else is mulling around sitting on regular chairs. That doesn't seem to work. It's disrespectful to the people coming to the Avel. So therefore, they would sit on a regular table for the Sudas Havrah, because the Sudas Havrah was a very heavy time when people came to visit the Avelim. If you go to a Shiva house, you sometimes see that Avelim actually will sit at a table to eat during Shiva. Some Avelim do, some Avelim don't. So,
yeah.
Okay, I've seen it both ways. But that's
because... What do they just sit where they normally sit low when they eat their food like that?
Yeah, yes. Or yeah, because in fact, really, during Avelis, you don't make a zimun, you don't make a mizuman. So each person's sitting by themselves, they sit low. Avelis is not an easy thing.
Alright, so people who sit at the table, is there a record for that, or just not?
I don't know. They just find it difficult to eat sitting on the ground.
Okay.
You know, we're very kind of
spoiled.
Yeah, precisely. We sit on chairs. Can you imagine if you have to stand the whole day? Maybe some of you do, but we're not just used to sitting on chairs. We're used to sitting on comfy chairs, right? All chairs are making with cushions now. Chairs and cushions is a fairly modern phenomenon. Right? They used to take boards, make wooden chairs. When the first cushion chairs came out, one of the shalos that came up with railroads. Shatnez, correct.
Yeah.
Shatnez, you can't wear clothing of shatnez, we know this. not just wearing clothing. It's anything that's going to wrap you up and give you comfort. So this kind of plush cushion, where you sit into it,
Could have shutness.
well, if it had sharpness, it would be a problem. You're sitting on it.
Oh.
Now today this is not a problem because today it's all made of foam and all this kind of synthetic stuff. But back in the day, before they invented synthetic stuff, they put into the cushions.
Horsehair, no?
I don't know what they
Straw,
put into the cushions. They
horsehair.
probably put straw many times, and probably in higher quality cases, they put all kinds of cuttings and leftover fabrics that they didn't know what to do with. I mean, well, we talk about recycling today. They recycled a lot more 100 years ago. We just don't call it recycling.
So you couldn't sit on shuttles?
So you couldn't sit on shotness. If this was, you couldn't sit on something soft and shotness.
Not just wearing shuttles?
Right? You can't sit on something that's you're going to fit into.
You're not really, you're not wearing
So
it.
the answer is you're not wearing it, but it's really part of what's really surrounding your body. So I'm saying if it's hard, you're not really falling in. It's okay. Maybe this is not so hard, not so soft. But think of a sofa chair. Think of a living room chair would really fall into that, right? Machaya.
So that I give wearing?
So that would also be a problem. Shabbos. Right. Today it's not a problem. Today it's not a problem because
It's all nylon.
It's all nylon. Otherwise it's not going to wear unless you have leather couches. But there's still the underpinnings and the insides are all foam. No one makes anything else but foam in there. But back in the day. Problem, see? Anyways, okay. Let's start this Gemara here a little bit. So the Gemara said that the only people who do Kriya are the Krovim of the mace. Okay. So the Gemara says Vafilo Chacham, and mean to say that even if a Talmud Chacham dies, the only people who do Kriya, who do ripping the garment, are the members of his relative family. V'yatanya, we have a brisa, Chacham Shemes, Hakol Krovov. If a big Talmud Chacham dies, everybody's his Karov. Today, Rabbi Aaron Lichtenstein passed away. I don't know if people know this. Okay.
That seems familiar. Who is that?
He's the son-in-law of Rav Soloveitchik. He was the head of the yeshiva at Har Etzion. He was sick for a while, but it's a very big loss. So you could argue that if you had a connection to that yeshiva, or you learned from him or something, whatever, so maybe a person should rip Kriya as well. I don't know, the yeshiva, the Levi's tomorrow. It's actually fascinating because he died today, the Levi's not till tomorrow.
But you want people to come or whatever.
Maybe.
But usually
Maybe they were waiting. Maybe actually it's from the yeshiva. Maybe they were waiting for relatives to come. That may be.
Usually the bear within the day in Yerushalayim.
Get married the same day. Yeah. I'm very surprised. Very surprised.
Maybe unless for like a dignitary. Like what do you do? Like for if
I'm very surprised. You know what?
I'll
tell you.
Relatives, yeah?
I'm sorry.
He has U.S. relatives.
Yeah.
But like you get a dignitary passed away, they wait a few days, like in Israel, before all the.
Yeah, but that's dignitary. This is the Rosh Yeshiva.
Oh, still, he's a dignitary. He's an important person.
I think it must be relatives coming in from New York or from Boston, or wherever.
Yeah.
Because the time flips ahead. Because I tell you, when I got up this morning, I already got an email about it. And Levi's not till. And if I got it this morning, let's say it's 6 o'clock. What time is that in Israel?
Yeah, 6 hours later, 7 hours later.
It's 11 o'clock. It's 1 o'clock. Okay.
It's 1 in the morning.
It's 1 in the afternoon. It's 1 in the afternoon.
Yeah, you got 6 o'clock
in the morning. 6 a.m. when I got up, right? So 6 until 13, 1 o'clock. At 1 p.m. But the funeral's not till 10 o'clock tomorrow morning in Israel time.
And this is in Jerusalem?
It's going to go from his yeshiva, and I don't know where it's going after that. Probably Jerusalem.
But was he passed away in Jerusalem?
I probably passed away in a hospital in Jerusalem, yeah. It's not important where he passed away. He passed away in Israel.
I thought it's Jerusalem, that's where they don't wait overnight.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know what to say. So, except they can tell you it's 10 o'clock tomorrow Israel time. If you want a link to the live feed, I can send it to you. Okay. Will be a very long funeral. Okay, anyway, so the question is, what about a Chacham Shmeis? Everybody's his Karov. Everybody's related. So the Gemara says, Akol Karov, everybody's related to a Chacham. That's not real. The Chacham has biological relatives and he has students. The Gemara says, Soka Daitach, and Akol Kik Karovov. Everybody's like a relative to a big Talmud Chacham. Hakol Korim Olav. Everybody does Kriya for him. Hakol Chotzim Olav. Everybody bears the shoulder. Hakol Mavrim Olav. And everybody goes to Suda Savra. Everybody's like a mourner of this great scholar. Hakol Mavrin Alav Berchova. So the Gemara says, so what do you tell me that the only time that people do Kriya is the crow of Shomeis? You see, for a Chacham, everybody did Kriya. So what's the obvious answer? Well, Tzrichat Lav Chacham Hu. You're right. For a Chacham, everybody does it. If this person's not a Chacham, who does Kriya? Only his relatives. So the Gemara says, wait, you have Adam Kasher Hu Chiyuva Michayev Umikra, and even if the person is not an Adam Chacham, you're required to do Kriya for that individual, for an Adam Kasher. Okay, a normal person, a regular person, a proper person, an Upkehitna person. So the Adam Kasher Hu Chiyuva Michayev Umikra, you have to do Kriya as well. The Tanya, and why do Gemara has all these theological things, so let's not take it that literally. Why do children die when they're young? Because they should cry for the death of a good person. So Gemara says, Yivka v'Yisabo, they should cry because an Adam Kosher is going to die. Arvona koshakum minei, you're taking away the collateral in order to do something, to do a calamity. Ela mimnei shelo bacha v'Yisabo Adam Kosher. The reason that person loses children is because he did not mourn for the death of an Adam Kosher. Shekol abonim v'Yisabo Adam Kosher mochlim lo kavan osav b'chvil kavod shasalo. So with an Adam Kasher, everybody should cry and do avelis for that person, and your sins are forgiven because of the kavod you did to him. So you see that people did kriya or mourn for not just a Talmud Chacham, but for an Adam Kasher. Adam Kasher is like a real proper person. He's not a scholar, but he's he does everything that 100% and very careful. So Gemara says, oh, the lav Adam Kasher who. So the person he's not an Adam Kosher, so you don't have to do Kriya. In Adam Kosher you have to do Kriya. Talmud Chacham you have to do Kriya. So Adam Kosher though, so the Gemara says either Koi Hasam B'Shas Yitzias Neshama Chiyuv Mechayev. However, if you're there when a person passes away, even if the person is a person dies and not a Talmud Chacham and not even Adam Kosher, person has to do Kriya. The Tanya. We'll just do a little bit. The Tanya, Rabbi Shimon ben Elazar Omer, Homer al meis b'shas yitzias neshama chayav lekroa. Person who stands when a person dies should do kriya. Person's there when actually a person passes away, he should do kriya. Why? Lama zedoma. What's it compared to? The Sefer Torah shenisra. It's comparable to a Sefer Torah that burnt. Shechayav lekroa. That you have to do kriya when you see a Sefer Torah being burnt. Okay, so therefore, when a person dies, it's if a Sefer Torah is being destroyed. A person is like a Sefer Torah. So you see that a person does Kriya even on a regular individual. When the Gemara answers, the lo koi hasam b'shas yitzias neshama. The person was not there when a person died. So what comes up out of the Gemara is, if you're there when a person passes away, you should do Kriya.
Okay. In the room.
But if you're there, actually, the moment of death.
Even if you're not related.
Even if you're not related, just being there at the moment of death is such a sad event. You should do kriya.
So what is not an Adam kosher?
It looks like even an Adam not kosher. An Adam kosher looks like maybe you could do kriya, and Talmud Chacham surely should do kriya. Now, in terms of doing kriya for being there when a person passes away, so there's a tshuva by Rav Tzvi Pesach by the Gesher Chaim of Tukachinsky, who writes that we don't do this today because we're afraid if we were to tell people to do Kriya when people pass away, they will abandon all the dying people.
What?
Oh, you run out of clothing.
No, you run out of clothing. I don't want to be there when he's dying. I'm going to leave now, okay? Because if I stay here, I'm going to lose my suit.
Jacket.
Right? So it's like a gzera. Rav Moshe Feinstein says not true. Rav Moshe Feinstein says no, a person is there when a person passes away, you should do Kriya. However, you don't have to do Kriya in an obvious place. In other words, you can do Kriya in what they call Shulei Beged, the end of the Beged, where you don't see it inside. You don't have to ruin a garment that's irrevocable.
Oh, I see.
But you have to do a minimal type of Kriya. It's not the same like the Ovadas Kriya here. But that's actually if you're there when a person passed away. And even then, I said there are shitas that we don't really do it today anymore.
The timing of it, because a child would do it before the buyer.
It's not about child, it's about non-relatives. If you happen to be there.
Saying, but a non-relative will do it immediately as opposed to the child which
correct.
For the funeral.
Right. Well, not always a child there when a person passes away.
No, I'm saying, but just the difference of the timing.
Yeah. So the answer is a child who's there if a child is present when a person passes away, yes, they could do it then. We tend to defer doing Kriya to the Levaya because people don't know how to do Kriya, because people forget to do Kriya, and therefore we put it in right before the Levaya itself. But if you're there, actually, b'shas yitzias neshama, there are some shitot that say that one should be doing kriya, and even if it's not a relative. It's not something that, once again, it's discussed among the poskim today. Some say we do, some say we don't. You don't really hear about it that much because we are more removed from people being there when people pass away. It's not as common as perhaps it was back in the day. People tend to die in more sterile environments in hospitals. Right? So forth. Okay.
Is there some words you say when you do Kriya? Or some person does it, say some words or something?
Yeah, say the bracha. If you're a karov, you make the bracha. Bracha d'Hashem Elokim Hachlom. Bracha d'Hashem Elokim Hachlom. You say Haddan Ames.
The person doing the Kriya?
Yeah. But if you're not a relative, you would not make the bracha. But the actual Kriya itself, is a sad moment. It's a recognition.
And at the kotel?
So at the kotel, people do it. It's become less popular to do it. You surely don't do it if it's Rosh Chodesh or after Friday after Shabbos.
Mm-hmm.
You don't do it if it's not your garment, according to many opinions.
Sorry, if you don't?
You don't do Kriya if it's not your garment.
Why do you do Kriya?
So you know how you sold the chametz? So people like to sell their shirt before they go down, because it's not my garment to rip.
Oh, Kriya at the kotel.
Kriya at the kotel.
Oh, so you sell your shirt.
You sell your shirt, correct? The question is when you should do the Kriya, by the way. When you should do the Kriya.
Where's
the first time you see it?
First time ever? The first time in 30 days?
First time in 30 days. But where do you actually do Kriya? So it's actually when you see Makom HaMikdash, it's really probably as you're coming down the steps, before you come down the steps in the old city.
Like you see the mosque.
You see that's Harabayas.
Yeah.
You're not really ripping Kriya on the kotel. You're ripping Kriya on the Temple Mount.
You don't really see the Harabayas because the wall comes up in the Harabayas. You're seeing
you see the place of Harabayas.
The place. I mean, you don't see the.
See the place of Harabayas. You don't have to see the actual grass.
If you see that mosque there, don't you? You're automatically seeing it, aren't you? That's what it was.
Right. That's right. Yeah, by the way, there's also a lot of discussion about seeing Arei Yehuda B'Churbanan. When you see the cities of Judah that are destroyed, does a person does Kriya as well? Once again, less and less people do that. It's something like
cities like archaeology.
Well, the question is, what are the cities that you're looking at? Hebron, Beit Lechem.
You go to what's it called, Silwan, south, like over there. That's the Yerushalayim. That's the old city.
So, but the Yerushalayim is built up.
No, but
the question is today, would we consider Yerushalayim, because part of it is under Arab control? Would you still do Kriya on it? So people don't. People surely don't do Kriya when they.
Actually, it's more reason to do Kriya. That we don't have control is a Kriya.
Well, so people don't do Kriya in Yerushalayim for a couple of reasons. It's discussed after the 6 Day War. A, we have a better control over Jerusalem. We don't have perfect control, but we have more control than they had before 67.
Yeah.
And B, it's not even clear where you should do it. In other words, where do you start? Like you said, where do you do Kriya for the Kotel when you first see the Temple Mount, the Kotel? You got a fairly good idea where that is. When you're coming down the street, right? You come around, you walk down the street, or you get off the bus. Yeah. That's pretty much where you're going to do it. But as you're driving up to Jerusalem, where do the hills of Jerusalem turn into Jerusalem? And when should you do it? So it's never really quite sure where you do it. So that's one of the Heterim people don't do it. People don't do it. Plus the fact that Yerushalayim is built up, right? There was a whole discussion after on Tisha B'Av, after the 6 Day War, right? Rav Goren had an idea. People said you don't say Nachem anymore, and Rav Goren came up and found in Nusach that al Ha'ir HaChareva, it found in Nusach said Ha'ir Shahaita Chareva. People remember this. In 1967, there was a major discussion whether we say Nachem on Tisha B'Av because we recaptured Jerusalem. There was this euphoria. It's, you were used to it. Until 67, you couldn't go to the Kotel. Until 67, there were Jordanian snipers all along no man's land.
But it's not the Kotel. We're worried about the basic Mikdash. It's not the Kotel.
Correct.
So that doesn't solve the problem.
So, but Nachem talks about Ha'ir HaChareva, the city which is desolate. You could argue that you could argue today that yes, it is still, this problem is still there. You go to East Jerusalem, you surely feel desolation. You ever go to East Jerusalem?
East Jerusalem, the Arab area.
The Arab area.
Yeah,
correct.
Blue Rose.
Okay, you've been there one form or another. You hold your breath. Well, you go down to the village of Silwan. If you come up
two rocks at us, the Arab kids.
there you go. So that's really Chareva. But in 1967, where this was this euphoria that it's, how to say, Harabait Biodenu.
Yeah, that's what he said growing.
Right, Harabait Biodenu, Kotel, we came to Kotel, they felt that that brought in a sense of reconquest and bringing in time of Mashiach in a much more accelerated way. So why are we going to say Nachem? We have Jerusalem. So he found this version in a manuscript that said Ha'ir Shahaita Chareva, the city that was desolate.